Colorado's chief elections officer now has observers watching the vote counting in the Aurora mayor's race. That wide election night lead is now down to just a few hundred votes. The clerk in charge of the election could not explain to us why anybody should trust her office to do this. And now both parties are picking apart the process, looking for any advantage, as this race is not going to be decided for at least another week. The vote counting continued today in Arapahoe County. There were some ballots incorrectly returned to other counties, so they get brought to the correct county and they get tallied there. And those added 8 more votes to Republican Mike Kaufman's lead. He's now up 281 votes. The former Republican congressman originally held a wide lead over Democrat Omar Montgomery. There are a lot of unsupported accusations of funny business going on in this election, so we got everybody involved on the record today. The Secretary of State's office and both campaigns. We asked them, have you seen evidence of vote fraud?
No, we haven't seen any evidence of that.
Is anyone inside alleging that somehow people were allowed to vote after Tuesday 7 p.m. and that's why the numbers are changing?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear them say that today. They are asking for some information so that maybe they can confirm that. I have no reason to believe that anything like that happened.
So there have been core requests, and there have been some of those controversies. We've asked to be copied on all of that to monitor and make sure that we're not in the dark and we know what's going on. But that's the extent of our focus right now.
You heard there in order from the Secretary of State's office, then Democrats, and then Republicans. There's another issue, Marshall, with this mayor's race. Hundreds of voters, mostly in Aurora, did not get their requested replacement ballots until Election Day. How in the world does that happen?
The mail system and the Secretary of State's office differ in their explanations, which we're about to get into. There were 828 ballots for people who never got one and called the clerk and said, hey, where is it? Or people who screwed something up and wanted to get a new one. And they ordered ballots from Seattle 1 week before the election to replace these ballots, put it on the mail truck to Denver, and they got delivered on Election Day. The post office says it's because the clerks paid for the slowest shipping. Secretary of State says the post office failed to deliver on time and also failed to notify the state. As if the Aurora mayor's race between Mike Kaufman and Omar Montgomery needed a new wrinkle, today we learned 828 ballots were not delivered to voters until Election Day. 664 live in Aurora, and only 141 of those people voted. That means 523 voters who requested a replacement ballot did not get to vote in the Aurora mayor's race, a race that's separated by 281 votes.
It does not look like it would have affected, but you have to make various assumptions to get there.
Secretary of State Jenna Griswold does not think Election Day ballot delivery would have swayed the Aurora mayor results. But had she been told on Election Day that ballots were still being delivered, she would have done something for those voters.
We could have asked a judge to expand polling hours. We can't do that now.
We went to an extraordinary effort. Hundreds of employees were involved with this. We're very proud of our employees to make sure that voters got their ballots before the polls closed.
David Rupert, the Postal Service spokesman, showed us the room where mail delivery is tracked and explained why the ballots were slow to arrive from the printing facility in Seattle.
They did mail them at our slower truck rate, and it's a marketing mail rate, and they did that to to save money.
Ultimately, the ballots arrived in Denver on Friday, November 1st. The Postal Service had 5 days to deliver that mail. The Secretary of State says it should have been tagged as a priority. At the very least, we can take the heat off Arapahoe County.
We have no reason to believe that Arapahoe County did anything wrong here.
Go back in time real quick to the Adams County thing last year where we heard he said, she said for a while, and it took a report months later to find out what really happened. I'm picturing that's what's going to happen here. Kyle, what we heard from the post office is that the counties could have paid for priority shipping to get those ballots here sooner, or perhaps printed them locally instead of from Seattle to get them in the mail stream. The Secretary of State's office says there is a statutory limit. You can do this 8 days before the election, which is what these clerks did, and somehow some of these ballots still didn't show up till Election Day. I'm waiting for that report months from now.
I don't know, but Marcia, I'm sitting here with my mouth agape listening to the Postal Service spokesman saying, I'm really proud of our people. We hustled them out that day and got ballots into people's hands before the polls closed. They would have been better off calling people and telling them to go vote in person. Like if you get a ballot right before the poll closed, that doesn't do you any good. You still have to get it to elections officials.
And the best the state could have done was keep places open longer had you realized you didn't get your ballot yet.
Tell you what, 2 years in a row we're dealing with this. All right. Thank you, Marshall. So the Democrat who's trailing in the Aurora mayor's race, Omar Montgomery, he will not see an automatic recall unless that 281 vote margin is cut about in half. Montgomery told us he wouldn't rule out paying for a recall that's outside the margin.
Right now, all things are on the table. And until we figure out exactly where these numbers line up, that will determine our next steps. But right now, everything is on the table in regards to what we can and could do depending on after the votes are counted.
I misspoke a moment ago. I meant recount, not recall. Obviously, Colorado's seen those as well. We have tried to make something very clear in our coverage of Aurora's ballot counting, but maybe I just need to say it. The fact that Arapahoe County's Democratic County Clerk Joan Lopez cannot explain how elections work does not mean that Republicans are being cheated here. No one has pointed to evidence of voter fraud, not even the Republicans. Lopez has some answering to do for what appears to be a mix of partisanship, clumsiness, and an inability to articulate the basics of her job. But we have not seen any evidence that her stumbles have changed a single vote. So you listen to the red-hot rhetoric about an immigrant invasion these days, and you think that we might be seeing unprecedented numbers of people here illegally. Well, we got our hands on the actual immigration detention numbers for Colorado and Wyoming. You don't see those often. They tell a different story. Our Anusha Roy has that.
Throughout 2013, close to 6,000 people were in ICE custody in Colorado and Wyoming. That was under the Obama administration. In 2014, the numbers started to go down, hitting a low in 2015, then climbed back up to more than 5,500 last year. When you pull back to look at the big picture, the number of people ICE deported across the country follows a similar pattern with an uptick in 2018. This was after President Trump signed an executive order expanding who was a priority for deportation.
None of these year-to-year changes are the result of a single policy decision. Fact is, people are more complicated than that.
DU law professor Cesar Hernandez said to truly understand these numbers requires a history lesson that goes beyond how different presidents address immigration.
The number of people that the Border Patrol has been apprehending is a drop in the bucket right now.
The Pew Research Center said that record number was in 2000, with more than 1.6 million people arrested, nearly twice the number of arrests in the last year. Hernandez said as political instability and violence plague countries in Central America, people will continue to try and cross the border, but what did change is that Mexico's economy is slowly getting stronger. Their demographics have also changed.
There are fewer people reaching adulthood. There are fewer people in their 20s and 30s. And those are the people who historically leave their countries in search of opportunity.
Mexico also changed how it patrols its own border, starting when President Obama was in office, and now uses their National Guard to patrol their border with Guatemala to try and stop people from crossing into Mexico who may be on their way to the U.S.
A local immigration lawyer, Hans Meyer, said that they've seen their caseload go up in the last 2 years. And he said that he believes rhetoric has played a role in scaring people away from trying to enter the U.S. illegally or even accessing the U.S. immigration court system once they're in the country, which, of course, right now is facing a serious backlog for people who are currently in that system.
And you'll hear folks who are immigration hardliners say that the threat of enforcement is intended to be that kind of deterrent to keep people from trying to cross illegally. You would think that people who are locked up in Colorado for immigration violations were probably arrested here in our local communities. That's changed over time.
Yeah, so what Hans Meyer said it was originally, especially because of geographically where we're located, for a really long time that population was people who had been living in the U.S. for quite some time, had a run-in with ICE, was arrested. But in the last year or two, that started to change. They started to see more people who were arrested at the southern border then get transferred into Colorado and Wyoming.
All right. Very interesting. Thank you, Anusha. Appreciate it. RTD's H line is the Hot Mess Express, but without the express part today. RTD canceled 21 trips on that light rail line. They are so short on operators, that's the damage when 3 people call out sick. Riders were left waiting 45 minutes between trains. RTD promises that reinforcements are coming. They're training 50 new operators starting on Monday. Former Governor Hickenlooper's campaign still is not answering our questions about whether he accepted illegal gifts in the form of jet travel from wealthy interests. Colorado's Independent Ethics Commission released its fact-finding report on Hickenlooper's jet travel yesterday. The commission has not ruled on whether the Democratic former governor and current Senate candidate did anything illegal. The Hickenlooper team is not answering our questions about his actions. They're trying to make this about the person who filed the complaint, former Republican legislator. Now that the Independent Ethics Commission's fact-finding report is out, I think it's time for Hickenlooper to answer for what he did, rather than just saying that the whistleblower is partisan. Does that sound like any other scenario in American politics right now? Hickenlooper insists that he did nothing illegal, and the Ethics Commission very well may agree with that. The biggest question is why a company owned by a powerful donor will not tell ethics investigators if it had business with the state at the same time that it was giving the governor a free ride on its jet. That was a fair question when the ethics investigators asked the company. It was a fair question when we asked Hickenlooper. And so far, no one has an answer.
When a traffic light broke at a busy intersection today, a Coloradan took control.
He's giving everybody a turn.
There is no way that's his first time doing this. And high schoolers get to work, earning experience and the money to keep their class alive. That's next.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Meteorologist Danielle Grant here in the Weather Center. 70 degrees. What a day. What a way to end the work week. Typically, we should be sitting in the mid-50s and that record high 80 degrees. Tonight, clear skies. Temperatures still comfortable this evening. We'll have clear skies overnight with a low of about 36, so extremely mild across the plains with 20s going up in the mountains. Tomorrow, the sunshine returns. So does the heat. How about 72? We're going to be close to that record of 76. Mid-70s along the eastern plains. Handful of 50s for highs. Out to the west as high pressure is entrenched across much of the west. This gives us a warm day, but a cold front lurking to the north. That'll bring us a little bit of snow Sunday night into Monday morning. Look at that, up to an inch. So not a big deal, but we will be looking at that early next week. Storm system moves out Monday evening. It's going to be chilly, but we'll be back to the 60s, Kyle, in no time.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, I got one from the Don't Try This at Home file. When a traffic light went out in a busy intersection in Denver today, some dude in street clothes jumped into the middle of the intersection and directed traffic like a boss.
So the lights are out at Leetsdale and Quebec, and this dude is in the middle of the intersection directing traffic, and he's not dead yet, and the traffic's moving. So we're gonna let him do his job. He's giving everybody a turn. That's pretty good stuff. Now we get to go. This is great. I love you.
Next viewer, Lance Weisenberger, gave us the video and the color commentary. Denver police don't think that that was one of their guys out of uniform. We called him. So do you recognize the traffic master? That could not have been his first time. If you know, email us, next@9news.com, or use the hashtag HeyNext.
Jeffco schools needed some work done. At first, they planned to hire someone.
Then, just out of the blue, we needed that, so why not give it to the school?
Because the students already knew how to do it. And this Friday, our first ever Good News reservation. A family asked if we could save a moment for them in 2021. That's next.
Sometimes what you need is right there in front of you. Jeffco Schools saw a recent story here about their students learning how to wrap cars, and somebody with the district realized they had a need for those kids' talents. So our Sonia Gutierrez went back to school.
We're going to get ready to start working on these cars. We got to prep them here a little bit.
The idea started late last year.
I need someone to help me tape these numbers up.
To show Jefferson High School students how to design, print, and wrap cars.
And then step back and look at it again. If you like it, just go for it.
It's quickly turned into something much bigger.
It's kind of nerve-wracking to know the district is going to trust us with about $250,000, $500,000 worth of trucks coming in here, and our kids get to put their hands all over them.
Did you do that? Yeah. It looks good.
When Jeffco School District Fleet Coordinator Mike Hins saw our story about this,
Making coffee and said, hey, that's one of our schools on TV.
he remembered it.
Good.
when the district needed 8 new trucks wrapped.
Have you done the other side on this one yet?
It's usually pretty pricey for the district.
A little over $1,000.
For each?
Yep.
But this way, they can save a couple $100s per truck.
Definitely a savings. Money goes back into the district, so that's good too.
It gives money back to the program.
We have a wish list, and we've had a wish list for the last 18 years. Now we have a wish list, and that wish list is like attainable now. We will have funding to do some of the stuff we've always wanted to do.
And shows students lessons beyond car wrapping.
I can literally do anything and they will still believe in me, like regardless. If I mess something up or like even a big thing up, they know that I can do it.
The day Sarai Saucedo sees one of her trucks on the streets,
hey, I did that.
it's going to be so powerful.
How does that look? Does that look good?
For Next, I'm Sonia Gutierrez.
We have been sharing your good news around here for 3 years. Never, though, had a note like the one we will share next. Sometimes your good news is the little things. Little like a baby or a shot of tequila.
My good news is I just quit my job. The good news, I quit my job, but then there's the other news that I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. So now I need to go take a shot of tequila.
My good news is I have a new baby niece. I held her plenty of times. It feels really good. I'm an uncle now. This is a first. So, yeah, it's nice. It's good news to me.
How are you at changing diapers?
I don't change diapers. I don't do the diaper changing yet until I have my own kids. And then we'll see.
My good news is Denver's awesome.
My good news is I am here in Denver for the first time for my friend's 25th birthday. We've been friends over 10 years.
My good news are that I'm visiting Denver this weekend and I'm going to a Nuggets game today.
We were doing gymnastics and taking pictures and exploring. My good news is that we had lots of fun.
My good news is we just attended the Monet exhibit at the Denver Art Museum and it was beautiful. It made me cry.
My good news is that I'm turning a quarter of a century and I'm happy to be here enjoying the weather in the mountains.
Have a nice day!
The squirrels. Got a message the other day that stopped me in my tracks. James wrote in, "You better keep doing your Good News Friday for another year and a half. We will be announcing that our 4-year-old son is cancer-free in April of 2021. I had to know more."
James made our first ever Good News reservation for his son Cannon. Superhero medicine is what they call the treatments that Cannon gets at Children's Hospital. Treatments he's had for 2 years and will need for a year and a half more. Cannon has lymphoblastic leukemia, the best kind of childhood cancer, if you have to deal with it, is what his dad told me. Their family motto is kicking cancer's tushy. Cannon, you keep doing that. And in April 2021, you ring that warrior bell at Children's and come on over to 9 News. We'll let you announce your good news yourself.
Hope no one saw we misspelled Aurora tonight, and no one did, except Helen and Jameson and Jay and Bob and Kevin and Jeff and John and Blaine and Jim and Randy and Anthony. Thanks, guys.